What's happening, family? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with my people. Now, as usual, before I get started, let me give a shout out to the JBT community. It's just boxing talk. We're a group of people that just love to talk boxing. And we're always looking for others to join us. And you don't have to have a podcast. The only requirement is you just have to love to talk boxing. That's all. That's all. Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. Justin James, hashtag JBT. Justin. Mike Masick. Salute Mike Masick. And welcome to another episode of Cast Sports, the Box Story. This is the Thursday afternoon edition. How's everybody doing this Thursday afternoon? Yep, here in Maryland, we're 4 for 4. April 4th, it's raining again. Remember, April showers bring May flowers. And we have definitely got the April showers every day this month so far. It's raining right now. But that's not going to stop this history lesson we're going to have today. Because you know, if it's a weekday at 2 o'clock, it's Cast Sports, the Box Story. Today, we're going to talk about boxing in the 1950s. Now, tomorrow, we're going to take a break from the decades because it's Profile Day. And of course, it's Ricardo Lopez this week. Fought most of his career at 105 minimum weight. But in 1998, he went up to. And this man was champion for the entire decade of the 90s, except for a few months when he vacated 105. Then a few months later, he went to 108 and became champion there. Okay. So he ruled down there between 105 and 108 for the entire decade of the 90s. Ricardo Lopez. The next week, we will finish up. We have the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Work out perfect. Another big week. And today, another big day. With Cast Sports, the Box Story. Everybody okay this Thursday afternoon? Like I said, a rainy one in Baltimore, Maryland. But it's all good. Rain don't stop nothing. You know, the farmers need rain. So I guess they happy. It's rained every day this month so far. That's only been 4 days. But it's still rained every one of them. Yeah. You know, I wait until about 2:30, about 15 more minutes. Because my people are coming. Oh yeah, they coming. Cast Sports, the Box Story is growing. Rome wasn't built in a day. We're going to get there together. I have great supporters. Because you know, you're only as good as your supporters. If you got good supporters, then you have a good product. But while I'm waiting for 2:30, I want to talk about Pitbull. A lot of people are going around now, Pitbull, like he's the best thing since Canelo, I guess. Calling him the best Mexican fighter out there. But he only beat Rolly. Now, anybody that thought that Rolly was going to have a long reign as champion at 140 must not know too much about boxing. Anybody who knows boxing knew Rolly's first title defense, the belt was going away. He didn't deserve it in the first place, okay? They cheated to give him the belt. He was losing the fight. Now, he might have came back and won it, but he was losing on all 3 cards. And they stopped the fight and gave it to him. Plus, he didn't deserve the title shot in the first place. He was coming off a stop, remember? He got a title fight after getting stopped by Tank. So, no, I'm just not sold on Pitbull, okay? Because he only stopped Rolly. And I think Pitbull, now he's calling out Matias, Devin, but they both are occupied. They both have fights scheduled. Now, what is Pitbull going to do once they're free? I think he's going to go back to his old ducking ways. Remember how he ducked Shakur? The Rise Podcast in the building. The Mighty Rise Podcast. The Closer. 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. on Sunday. Salute to the Rise Podcast. We are talking about the 50s today. I'll give it till about 2:30. A few more people come in. But yeah, Pitbull. You know, I'm not sold on it. He only beat Rolly. Come on, man. And we all knew Rolly was not going to have that belt that long. Wasn't like he was going to have some long, drawn-out title reign. Come on, he didn't deserve it in the first place. Yeah. Well, Pitbull will go out there and beat Matias or Devin or somebody, then I'm a believer. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't even think he's going to fight him. Okay? Remember how his father said he didn't want to fight Shakur because he didn't want to chase a runner around the ring. Cut the ring off then. You know? The style of fighting that Pitbull fights, he's supposed to know how to cut the ring off. Remember Giovanni Cabrera? Gave Pitbull all kinds of problems. Pitbull got frustrated and started fighting dirty. I just wanted to touch on that because he only beat Rolly. Come on, man. And then for those that say Devin is the face of boxing, the man can't even sell tickets. How is he the face of boxing? Not even talking about the pay-per-views yet. He can't even sell tickets to the venue where the fight is happening at. That's sure a strange way to be the face of boxing. You know? Sure a strange way. Another rainy day up here in Maryland. You know, 4 days in April, 4 days of rain. I just came in, it wasn't raining. Now it's coming down pretty steady out there. I can hear it. But that's not going to stop the box story in today. We're going to be talking about the 50s. Moving on through the decades. But yeah, we're going to take a break tomorrow from the decades because Friday is the profile day. But I forgot the name momentarily. No, his last name is Lopez. Ricardo Lopez is the profile tomorrow. Campaigned at 105 and 108. Was champion for the entire decade of the 90s except for a few months. So yes, Joe Louis is still the only man to be champion for an entire decade. But Ricardo was champion every year of it. He just, at the end of 98, he vacated. And then in 1999, he moved up and became champion at 108. So he was champion every year, but he just missed by a few months for being champion the entire decade. But he still ruled it at 105 and 108. Ricardo Lopez, that's tomorrow. And we bring the profiles every Friday. And who we got? Richardson Hitchens Saturday. I guess the final press conference is today, right? A little over 2 weeks away from Devin and Ryan. We're going to get it. Remember, everybody was saying Ryan wasn't going to make it. He's a deranged, pot-smoking idiot. But no. Ryan is going to be ready, man. That's not me saying that. Ryan pretty much said that about himself, remember? So, I think he's going to be ready. I got Devin winning. Just too skillful for Ryan. You know, Ryan will throw that raggedy shoulder roll and throw himself out of position. Then he turn his back. You know, that's part of his defense. Turning his back on his opponent. 1950s. Because you know, Sugar Ray Robinson, he was big in the 40s and 50s. He had Hall of Fame careers in both decades. He could have skipped the 40s and went to the 50s, still been in the Hall of Fame for what he did in the 50s, or he could have went through the 40s and retired, not fought in the 50s, still would have been in the Hall of Fame for what he did in the 40s. Had over 100 fights in the 40s and only lost one of them. Then in the 50s, 5-time world champion. That's a bad man. But he ducked Charlie Berlin for Murderer's Row. Sugar Ray knew. Al Booger in the building. What's up, Al Booger? Salute. Justin says Ryan good. I don't believe he's going crazy either. Some issues out there, but I don't think he's crazy. No, I don't think so, Justin. He's ready. Ryan will be ready. Yeah. I don't know what he was trying to do. He had some kind of purpose to that. What he was doing. You know. I don't know what it was. I don't think it's if he's trying to play Devin out of position, that ain't gonna work. Devin's gonna wash him. I think it'll be close to a shutout. Devin's gonna move around the ring for 12 rounds. You know he's got the gas tank to do it. And remember the Tago debacle with Ryan, Emmanuel Tago? If Ryan couldn't cut the ring off on Tago, I know he ain't gonna be able to cut it off on Devin. Come on, man. He couldn't even catch up with Tago. But Devin is going to be boxing skills using the ring. Tago was straight up running. I don't know who ran the most, Tago or against Ryan or Curran against Boots. Yeah, Tago was straight up running, man, you know. Let's salute Al Booger in the building today. Always in the building. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. I know Lonnie Lee is coming. Remo. Haven't seen Ant McQueen lately. I got this fight I wanted him to break down. Or fights. I talked about it yesterday. It was a guy named Bojack, Bob Montgomery, and Ike Williams at lightweight. They had a series of fights that any one of those combinations in that series. Yeah. I'm gonna see if Ann can break one of them down. Because they all fought each other numerous times. I've seen a couple of them. Yeah. I'm the king of watching old fights. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna see when next time I see Ant McQueen, I'm gonna ask him about that. He might not do it. Last time I asked him to break a fight down, he did it. I didn't show up for the breakdown. I missed it. Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know what I was doing that day. Yeah. But Casual's Corner, you know, he don't have a set schedule. You got to just subscribe and turn your notifications on for him. Catch you. But part of the JBT, yeah. It's Casual Corner. Ed breaks them down. You haven't watched the fight until you watch one after watching the Casual Corner breakdown, man. I remember my first one. I was watching boxing since the 80s, and after watching the Casual Corner, I was seeing stuff during the fight I had never seen before. Yeah. And why they were doing certain things. Yeah. I thought I was a hardcore. But you really are hardcore after watching that Casual Corner breakdown. But yeah, turn your notifications on, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and you'll get them. There's Remo, hashtag Let's Talk Fashion, hashtag JBT. Had another hashtag Let's Talk Fashion yesterday. I missed the live version, but I watched it for the first time so far. I usually catch them a couple times because we had to wait a week to get them. But that's all good. The anticipation is part of it, I guess. But salute, Remo. Hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. Hashtag JBD. That Remo. www.richspreads.com. Remo. That's him. He's in the building. Just since I haven't seen too many fights in black and white. I don't really know much, so I sit back and listen. Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy, the black and white era. And then when back in the 20s, man, they were silent. They didn't have sound, Watching one of them is crazy. But sometimes nowadays with these announcers, we need no sound. Especially when you're watching a fight on ESPN. That need to be a silent film. So we can't hear Tim Bradley's mouth. One guy land 15 punches, the other guy land 2. They just talk about the 2 the one guy landed. End of the round, they'll show the highlights of the guy landing 2. It won't show none of the punches the guy landed 15. And say the guy that landed 2 won the round. So your ESPN needs to be solid. That would be good to have a solid film on them. Or just mute it like I do. I usually listen to KQKC or Just Do or somebody call a fight and watch ESPN. I don't listen to that nonsense, man, because they have an agenda. They are giving notes to the agenda that they're supposed to go by as they call in the fight. I really believe that, because they never call what's happening. But Tim is a company man, Hey, I couldn't do it, But he's getting paid, so hey, to each their own. But we're going to get started in a couple of minutes on these 50s. Everybody okay this Thursday afternoon? We're 4 for 4 in Baltimore with the rain. 4 days into April, 4 days of rain. My mother always said April showers bring May flowers. So we are definitely due some May flowers up here. All this rain. Man. Here's Thomas Hill, #JBT, the mayor of these YouTube species. I told you, my people, they coming. They coming. Let's get ready to get started. Because these things take me all the way up to the voice. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you right to the voice's doorstep. And then he's going to come on after me, and we going in the door. We going in the building. And listen to the voice build. Okay. That balanced boxing talk over there. Keeps everything on a nice, even keel. The voice of the streets, Just Do Boxing. And it's still early in the JBT day, I'm just the second act. We got Just Do Boxing. Jay Hardcore is on his way around the block. I don't know if he's driving, running, walking, but he's on the way around. He'll be back around by 8, right? For the evening hangout. And then we got the closer at 9, the Rise Podcast. Shutting it down. And you know what I told you about the Rise Podcast? You might go in there and see the face of boxing, both of his coaches in there. Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis, man. You ain't gonna find that nowhere but in the JBT. Any given day. On there chopping it up. Okay? Who knows? You might go in there one day and see the face of boxing himself on there, man. That's JBT. And if they don't know about the JBT, they will know about it. Okay? Forget what you heard. You better ask somebody about that JBT, man. I'm serious. I ain't just talking to be talking. Okay? The JBT is fire. Not fire. Fire. Okay. Let's get ready to go with these 50s, though. I'm running out of small talk. It's 2:28. Let's go. Lonnie Lee is coming. Got a group of my people in here. Got the mayor of YouTube in here, man. Taking time. He got to run a whole community. The mayor of YouTube. You knew what I'm talking about, Thomas Hill. He takes time out of his busy schedule to come in here and listen to the box story. So I got to make this good. We are talking about a history of boxing in the 1950s. Okay. Now, the 20s, boxing became the most popular it had ever been, remember? And then the 30s came around and the Depression hit. Kind of put a little damper on the sport. Then they're getting it back together. Here comes the 40s. Here comes World War II. But that was also the TV era, so boxing became even more popular in the 40s because of TV, the TV exposure. And the TV people loved boxing because it was so inexpensive to broadcast compared to the other sports, right? So now we're going to see what's happening in the 50s, okay? Hardcore boxing news, hashtag JBT. That's Jay Hardcore, you know. He's on the way around the block, but he took a break to come in here. Listen to this history of boxing in the 50s. Salute Jay Hardcore. He'll still be back at 8 o'clock. He'll be around the block by 8. And Jay Hardcore is the founder of this JBT. What an idea he came up with, man. This thing is taking off. Okay? JBT. But boxing in the 1950s, right? Now, during the 1950s, a couple of relatively new developments changed the world. Now, World War II had only been over for like 5 years, right? Ended in the mid 40s. So it had been over about 5 years when the 50s began. And television came around in the 40s. It was beginning to make a major impact internationally, right? Now, in boxing, changes connected to these developments could be seen too. You know, there's a lot of boxers, because remember, like I told you yesterday, in the 40s, a lot of boxers took a break from boxing. They went to fight in the war, not just the United States, because it was a world war. Boxers from all over the world took a break from boxing and went to fight in the war. So in the 50s beginning, now they coming back. They getting back into the groove in boxing. You know, all the boxers that's left, everything's getting back to normal. Okay. Now, as the boxers fought in the 40s in the war, returned to their homes. Many of them were back in the ring by the 50s, right? And like I was just saying, television producers were in love with sports, which provided the viewer with an opportunity to observe sporting events live, right? Because before TV, you just had the radio, you know, or you had to actually go to the sporting event or listen to them on the radio. Now we had TV. You can sit home in your living room, you know, lay back in the bed and watch fights, football, baseball, all that stuff, man. That's what TV did. Okay? And many television networks began to feature fights live during the weekends, right? There was this thing called the Gillette Friday Night Fights. And that ended up being one of the most popular boxing television series in American history. You know, I'm talking about not just sports. This Gillette Friday Night Fights was one of the most popular television series up against any kind of TV show. Okay. Now, in the 50s was the dawn of the jet airplane era, right? In 1958. That helped boxing too, because that helped expand boxing worldwide. Because before then, most boxers got to their big fights by train, right? Or if you're fighting overseas, you're going by boat. Now you can get on that jet airplane and zip right on over there. So it helped boxing a lot too, worldwide. With the airplanes flying faster, more frequently, between cities far away from each other, right? And that started causing more championship fights to be fought outside the United States now. When the jet airplanes came on the scene, boxing started becoming very international. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but that's why the National Boxing Association changed to the World Boxing Association in '62, because, you know, around that period, late 50s, early 60s, boxing was really becoming an international sport. But we'll get more into that tomorrow. Okay, the 60s. Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons the National Boxing Association became the World Boxing Association, right? Now, yeah, boxing was really becoming international. In the 50s, Vic Tawil became the South Africa's first world champion. Jimmy Carruthers did the same thing for Australia, became their first world champion. Pascual Perez became the first world champion from Argentina, right? Yoshiro Shirai, he became Japan's first world champion. Okay, so see what I mean about the international? Hogan Bassett became the first world champion for Nigeria, all this in the 50s. Okay. And he was one of the people, he had the National Boxing Association belt when it changed to the World Boxing Association in 62. Okay. Hogan Bassett from Nigeria. Now, popular American fighters in the 50s proved legendary. We had Sugar Ray Robinson. He would still win world titles and lose some in the 50s. Just like I was telling you, Sugar Ray Robinson could have stopped fighting in the 40s and never competed in the 50s and still been in the Hall of Fame. Or Sugar Ray could have skipped the 40s and just what he did in the 50s would have put him in the Hall of Fame. Okay? Rocky Marciano in the 50s, he became the only heavyweight champion in history to retire with a perfect record. And that still holds to this day. Like now you might say, well, we got some undefeated heavyweight champions, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, but they are not retired. One of them getting ready to get a loss. Well, maybe it'll be a couple of draws, But Rocky retired 49-0. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Jersey Joe Walcott in the 50s became the oldest heavyweight champion until George Foreman did it in 1994, right? But it was Jersey Joe all that time. Remember? It was Jersey Joe Walcott. Okay. Also, Archie Moore. He broke the all-time knockout record as well as the record for the oldest champion at 48 years old for any division. Of course, B-Hop broke that, right? But it was Archie Moore all that time. And it began in the 50s. Okay, that's the record that went for almost 50 years. It did go for 50 years. I can't remember exactly when B-Hop did it, but I believe Archie Moore had it for like 50. Ezzard Charles. Now, when Joe Louis retired, Ezzard proved to be a reliable replacement for Joe Louis as a heavyweight champion. He carried it well as champion through the 50s, early 60s. And a young Floyd Patterson emerged as the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Okay. And Patterson remained the youngest heavyweight champion until some guy named Tyson broke it in 1986. When he was 20 years old. Some guy named Tyson. Mike Tyson, I believe his name was. Yeah. But all that time before Mike did it in 86, Patterson was the youngest, okay? Okay. Now, the dark side of boxing once again emerged too. Jake LaMotta went in front of Congress and alleged at a hearing that he had thrown a fight with Billy Fox in exchange for a try at the world middleweight title, right? Because the Mafia was running things around that time. That was in the 40s, but he came out in the 50s. And the hearing was actually in 62. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, okay? But this was kind of the bad side of it around that period. Jim Norris, he was a big-time promoter. I think it was the IBC, International Boxing Club, right? He ran that. Came to find out he was associated with mobsters, Blicky Palermo and Frankie Carbo, right? One of this big-time promoters. That's like finding out Mauricio or I mean, Mob Father or Oscar or somebody associated with the mob. That's the level Jim Norris was on at that period in the 50s, okay? And come to find out somebody that big in boxing was associated with the mafia. Yeah. So that was the bad side of it in the 50s. Now, also, the 50s was the beginning of the golden era of boxing, led into the 60s, 70s. Especially in the middleweight and welterweight talented classes. These two weight classes alone were so flooded with extraordinary talent. It was very hard to make it to the top. Okay? Very hard. Middleweight and welterweight. That was Sugar Ray, Jake LaMotta, Carmen Bastillo. Them guys were middleweights around that time. And welterweight wasn't bad neither. Ant McQueen in the building. What's up, Ant McQueen? Yeah, you're right. Customato. And yeah, you're 100% correct. But salute, Ant McQueen. I was just saying I hadn't seen you in a couple of days early. That's Ant McQueen of Casual's Corner. I was just talking about that earlier. I got some fights I want to tell you about later that I want you to break down, Ant. But I remember the last one I gave you, I didn't even show up for the breakdown. But yeah, I got a couple. Yeah, I'll tell you about it. Now, like I was saying, some of the boxers had mafia connections. But even with mafia connections, you still had to fight and fight hard and well to be a top-ranked fighter. That's how competitive it was, even with mafia connection, because all them guys wasn't worrying about the mafia. They went like Sugar Ray Robinson. He turned down the mafia to throw fights many times. And he had the kind of respect where nothing happened to him. Remember, I went over that a few weeks ago. Now, back around that time, the United States dominated the sport in the 50s, especially in the weight class above welterweight. The 50s was another, just like we was talking about, 20s, 30s, 40s. 50s was another decade of excellent and unforgettable boxing and great fights. The 50s, we remember that as the beginning of the new music genre, rock and roll. And while great music entertainers like Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, Buddy Holly, Bill Haley, and Little Richard were rocking and rolling Americans around the clock, great boxers like Sugar Ray Robinson, Archie Moore, and The Rock, Marciano, they made boxing headlines rocking their opponents. Now, I touched on television in the 50s earlier, but let's take a deeper look at the TV, okay? Now, after the war, after fighters made their way back to the ring, they returned to a booming economy. You know how wars do. But anyway, the economy was booming when they returned back to the ring. And many boxers were eager to take advantage of increased paydays that was due to the great state of the economy. And fighters and their managers, they knew that television fights were the way to make big money and increase the chances of cashing in on endorsement deals, right? All that through television. It was common for big name fighters to get acting roles too. The great Cuban welterweight, Kid Gavilan, he fought on American TV many times in front of live national audiences, at least 30 times. Kid Gavilan turned into almost the same type of TV star as the stars of the top-rated television shows, like I Love Lucy, Leave Me to Beaver. Yeah, Kid Gavilan was on TV so much, he had reached that type of status. And finally, before we get into these fights and other significant events that happened, to sum up the 50s, it was a popular time in boxing. Popular time in boxing history. And it was due in large part to the exposure boxing received from broadcasts on television. It also helped to have the three most popular boxers of the period, Archie Moore, Rocky Marciano, and Sugar Ray Robinson, competing in that decade. Remember, Archie Moore was the longest reigning light heavyweight champion of all time, which is incredible. Because the man didn't get his first title shot till he was 36 years old. And they're not even sure that he was 36. He could have been 39. But he was at least 36 years old when he got his first title shot, and he still was the longest reigning champion in history. Light heavyweight, right? Remember, he was the oldest at 48 until B-Hop broke it. Of course, The Rock, Rocky Marciano, he's famously known for retiring with that perfect, unblemished record. And the great Sugar Ray Robinson, like I was telling you, he had amazing runs at welterweight and middleweight in the 40s. You know, he could have retired at the end of the 40s and still been a Hall of Famer. Or like I said, he could have skipped the 40s and just been a Hall of Famer off what he did in the 50s. Yes, he could have. Sugar Ray Robinson. So, and these were just three. Sugar Ray, Archie Moore, and Rock were just three of the all-time great boxing legends who competed in the great historic fights of the 1950s. Okay, we're gonna now look at some of the fights and some other significant events that went on during the 50s. Okay. I'm gonna lower this a little bit. As long as I can still hear it. Can't function without it. But everybody okay this Thursday afternoon? Don't forget tomorrow is Ricardo Lopez, bad man. Ruled 105 during the 90s. Now, he was not champion the entire decade. He was champion the entire decade except for a few months because, like I told you, he vacated 105 in late 98. And then in 99, he went up and became champion at 108. So he still ruled the decade down there, but he missed a few months as champion. Only because he decided to vacate and go up to challenge himself because there was no challenge at 105 for him. Okay. Let's go through some of these events that happened during the decade now. Start with 1950. Okay. Bear with me for a second. Here we go. 1950. There's my pen at. Anybody come in? No. Okay. On January 16th. No, wait a minute. Bear with me for a minute. Everybody okay this Thursday? I'm gonna get it together. I'm in the wrong place. We're talking about boxing in the 1950s. Tomorrow will be, no, we're not. We're going to take a break tomorrow. We're going to do a profile on Ricardo Lopez. And then we finish it up Monday with the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I got a great profile next week. I'll tell you tomorrow. After the Ricardo Lopez profile, who's tomorrow? Who's next Friday? Because we're going to do a profile every Friday. Okay. Starting out with January 16th, 1950. Okay. We call this my slide presentation. There we go. First slide. Willie Pep. In the first world title fight of the decade, Willie Pep retains his world featherweight title with a fifth-round knockout of Charlie Rowley in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay. On March 24th, 1950. In the closest Rocky Marciano was probably ever to be defeated, he squeezes by a 10-round split decision win over Roland Bastards at the Garden. Yeah, the championship fights was 10 rounds back in those days. Some of them was 15. Some of them used to be 40 before the Walker Law back in the 20s. Remember we went over that the other day? On May 31st, 1950. Wait a minute now. I got to slow down. May 31st, 1950, yeah. Vic Tawil becomes South Africa's first world boxing champion, outpointing world bantamweight champion Manuel Ortiz over 15 rounds in Johannesburg, South Africa. Manuel Ortiz took his title over there and lost it. The home guy, Vic Tawil, became South Africa's first heavyweight champion. Yep. That was still there's Vic there. Okay. Next one is August 25th, 1950. Sugar Ray Robinson defends his Pennsylvania version of the world middleweight title by knocking out Jose Basora. Get this, in 48 seconds. Looks like Jose's getting ready to go out. That must be the 48th second right there. Knocked him out in 48 seconds, a record for a championship fight. Okay? 48 seconds. Okay. Wow. On September 27th, 1950. Esmer Charles retained his world heavyweight title with a 15-round unanimous decision over former world champion Joe Louis. It shall be said that although Charles was officially the world heavyweight champion since June 21st, 1949, many fans still viewed Louis for sentimental reasons more than anything else as the real world heavyweight champion. Now, Charles was recognized universally after defeating Louis, because remember Louis had retired in 1949. And Charles had picked up the title, but a lot of people still recognize Joe Louis as champion. For sentimental reasons, you know. The man had been champion all those years. A lot of people didn't want to let it go. But once Esmer Charles beat him, as I said, you got to let it go. I didn't beat the man. Joe Louis should have never came back in the first place. Let's go to 1951. Okay. Put my ink pen somewhere. Oh my goodness. That's why I brought a spare with me. Can you find a spare ink pen? I don't know whether right here. Oh, there it is. Okay. There's Esmer Charles and Joe Louis. That was the one I just talked about. February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1951. It was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta finished their 6-fight boxing rivalry. This was the last one. Sugar Ray wins the undisputed world middleweight title, knocking LaMotta out in round 13 in Chicago. On March 7th, 1951, Ezzard Charles and Jersey Joe. Ezzard Charles retains his world heavyweight title with a 15-round unanimous, highly disputed by fans decision over Jersey Joe Walcott. Jersey Joe was on the end of a few bad decisions because remember they say he got a bad call against Joe Louis the first time, remember? Now Joe Louis knocked him out the second time, but they say the first one, a lot of people think Ezzard Charles won that fight. One I haven't seen. Okay. July 18th, 1951. Okay, I don't know why it didn't change. Here we go. Just took its time. July 18th. Looks like Willie Pep again. That's one of my favorites, Willie Pep. But I got the wrong one. I had the right one. Because it was the same two fighting. July 18th, 1951. At the age of 37, Jersey Joe Walcott becomes the oldest world heavyweight champion in boxing history, knocking out Ezzard Charles in 7 rounds. Charles was making the 9th defense of his title. Walcott maintained the record for 44 years. But see, remember the first time Walcott got the bad decision, so the next time he didn't leave it up to the judges. He got Ezzard Charles up out of there. Okay, Jersey Joe said, I'm tired of these bad decisions, man. That was the rematch. On September 26th, 1951, this was the 4th fight of the Sadler-Pep rivalry. And there they go. Willie Pep, Sandy Sadler on the screen. Sadler regained the world featherweight title with a 4th round technical knockout. Sadler and Pep fell to the floor so often when grabbing onto each other. One time, the referee, Ray Miller, went down with him in the 7th round. And both fighters were later suspended by the New York State Athletic Commission for what they viewed as dirty fighting by both of them. Okay? They didn't pick sides, they just suspended both of them. So they said, we're going to get the culprit because we're going to suspend both of you. Okay? Then, on October 26, 1951. Oh, man. There it is. Y'all remember that. Joe Louis, last fight, as he is knocked out in 8 rounds by the up-and-coming Rocky Marciano. Joe Louis had no business in there. Because, he ran into Susie Q. Look at that. And they say that's probably their most famous punch of all time. No. That was the one against Jersey Joe. My bad. Not that one. That was a pretty bad one, too. But that was the one against Jersey Joe. I think it was a hook. I got that coming up. Let's go to 1952. That was pretty bad right there, too. Joe Louis. Man, what in the world did I do? I'm going to go to 1952, right? Okay. There we go. March 13th, 1952. Sugar Ray Robinson retains his world welterweight title, defeating future world champion Carl Olson. That's Carl on the screen. You've seen enough of Sugar Ray. By a 15-round unanimous decision. Robinson donated all of his earnings for this fight except for $1 to the Damon Runyon Cancer Fund. On April 19th, May 19th, 1952. That's Yoshio Shirai. He became Japan's first world champion in boxing history when he defeated Dado Marino by a 15-round decision for the world flyweight title in Tokyo, Japan. Just like Manuel Ortiz did with the Nigerian, I think it was Nigerian, South African. Dado Marino went over to defend his title in Japan. And Yoshio Shirai became the first Japanese world champion. On June 25th, 1952. Got to shift down some. Stay with me for a moment, folks. There we go. Now, June 25th, 1952. Sugar Ray Robinson suffers from heat exhaustion and loses by knockout for the only time in his career. That's not Sugar Ray. When Dr. Alexander Schiff orders him not to continue after round 13 of his challenge to world light heavyweight champion Dewey Maxson under 104 degrees. That's what the temperature was in the ring. And both Robinson and referee Ruby Goldstein had to be hospitalized after the fight. Goldstein had to leave the fight before Robinson in round 10, being substituted for by Ray Miller for the rest of the fight. So Sugar Ray and the referee had to be taken out of that bad boy because of the heat, 104 degrees in there. September 23rd, 1952. I don't know. Bear with me for a minute. I have got off track, but I'm back on. That's the most famous punch of all, called the most famous punch of all times right there. September 23rd, 1952. Rocky Marciano becomes world heavyweight champion with what many have referred to as the greatest punch in boxing history, knocking out Jersey Joe Walcott in 13 rounds. There it is, Susie Q. Now, what is that, a hook or a cross? I can't really tell. William Old School of Rant in the building. Is that a hook? I guess a cross would be more straighter, right? But anyway, that's the most famous, called the most famous punch in boxing history. And Jersey Joe looked like he's already asleep. And he was, after the referee finished counting, he still laid on the mat and slept for a little while. Okay. Let's salute William Old School of Rant. November 15th, 1952. I done caught up with the slides now. Take it so long to change. November 15th, 1952. Jimmy Carruthers, that's Jimmy right there. He becomes Australia's first world boxing champion in history. He knocked out South Africa's first champion, Vic Tawil, in the first round to gain the world bantamweight title in Johannesburg, South Africa. So Vic Tawil was the first South African world champion. Then he lost to this guy, who became the first Australian world champion. Let's go to 54. I didn't find anything that significant or any good fights in 53. It was some, but nothing worth, let's just go to 54. Go to 54. Damn it. There we go. It wouldn't go to 54. Okay. February 26th, 1954. Wow. Somebody's on the mat. Lulu Perez beats Willie Pep by knockout in round 2 at the Garden. The fight is tainted with controversy, as many thought that it was a fixed fight. Pep later sued Sports Illustrated for $75 million after Sports Illustrated read a story in 1981 suggesting Pep took a dive for $16,000. But, he didn't win the case. But yeah, Willie Pep was one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time. It's pretty hard to knock him out. So I think he threw it. Okay. I refuse to say Willie Pep got knocked out. Okay. I just refuse to say that. Okay. Ooh. Now let's go to October 20th, 1954. Okay. Hope everybody is enjoying the show. That's a big jump. Okay. On October 20th, 1954, Johnny Saxton becomes world welterweight champion, defeating Kid Gavilan by a 15-round unanimous decision in Philly. It was a controversial win. 20 of 22 boxing reporters seated at ringside thought Gavilan could have gotten the decision. 20 out of 22 reporters. Wow, that's a lot. That's Gavilan on the screen, by the way. I put the man that should have won it on. On November 17th, 1954, Jimmy Carter joins the exclusive group of boxers who have been world champions at the same division 3 or more times by knocking out world lightweight champion Paddy DeMarco in round 15 to win the lightweight title for the third time. Okay, a very exclusive group back around that time. Finally, for 54. Got to shift now again. Bear with me here. Finally, 1954. November 26th, there's Pascal Perez. He becomes Argentina's first world boxing champion. See, I was telling you how international boxing was becoming around that time. And that's why in 62, like I told you, National Boxing Association changed the World Boxing Association. Keep up with how international boxing was becoming. I done said at least, 4 different nationalities won titles for the first time in the 50s, at least 4. Pascal Perez becomes Argentina's first boxing champion, defeating Yoshiaki Shirai by a 15-round unanimous decision to take the World Flyweight Championship in Tokyo. And remember, Shirai was Japan's first champion. Okay? He lost to Argentina's first champion, 1955. Welcome everybody to the building. I appreciate you stopping by. I'm Cass Sports, the Box Historian. Just hope everybody hit the appreciation button for me. It will be appreciated. There's Just Do Boxing in the building, The Voice. I'm going to take you right up to Just Do Boxing at 4 o'clock. And then we all going to go in the building and get that balanced boxing talk from The Voice up the street. And he's in here, in the building. So look, Just Do Boxing. Okay, now I couldn't find a picture of this guy. That's not him on the screen. African-American H. Sporty Harvey, who has successfully challenged boxing segregation in court, fights Buddy Turman in the first legal interracial boxing match in Texas. So that's obviously not him on the screen, right? Okay. September 21st, 1954. Archie Moore retained his world light heavyweight crown with a third-round knockout of world middleweight champion Bobo Olson in New York City. I have no idea who that is on the screen. Oh, that's the guy. That's the first Pascal Perez. That's Pascal Perez, who was the first. No, the guy that won the first. Yeah, that's Pascal Perez. He became Argentina's first champion. Sorry. Okay. Now, we go to December 9th. So September 21st, 1955. Okay. Okay. Here's the Rock. Okay. Rocky Marciano fights for the last time, recovering from a knockdown to beat world light heavyweight champion. Yeah, that's Archie Moore and The Rock. Archie Moore, a knockout in round 9 in New York, and retiring undefeated with 49 wins, 43 by knockout. Okay. Still, the only world heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. Okay. Yeah, that was his last fight right there. Rocky Marciano, one of my favorites. And then December 9th, back right on my slide. Yes. Okay. This time is flying. December 9th, 1955. Sugar Ray Robinson joins the exclusive group of fighters who have been world champions 3 or more times in one division, winning the world middleweight title for the 3rd time with a second round knockout of champion Carl Olson. Let's go to 56. Okay. April 27th, 1956. That's not him, but we're going to get the slides caught up in a minute. Rocky Marciano announces his retirement officially, making him the only heavyweight champion in history to retire undefeated at the Hotel Shelton in New York City. His last fight was in 55, but he didn't announce his retirement officially until 56. That's what that was about, on April 27th in New York City. June 29th, 1956. Now that's Mario Diagata becomes boxing's first deaf-mute world champion in history, defeating Robert Cohen by knockout in 6 to win the world bantamweight title. The first deaf-mute, boxing's first deaf-mute to be a world champion. There he is on the screen. Mario Diagata. Okay. Let's go to July 27th. 1956. Sandy Sadler suffers a life-threatening car accident and requires hospitalization for 1 month. He was in the hospital for an entire month, Sandy was. Wow, that was a bad accident. November 30th. This is a long one. November 30th, 1956. That's Archie Moore and Floyd Patterson on the screen. The former middleweight gold medalist from the Olympic Summer Games, 1952, Floyd Patterson wins the vacant World Heavyweight Championship with a 5th round knockout win over World Light Heavyweight Champion Archie Moore, on the same night that his wife gave birth to a baby girl. Patterson became, at 21 years old, the youngest World Heavyweight Champion in history, a record that he would maintain until 1986. Remember that guy, somebody named Tyson in 86. I believe his first name was Mike. Floyd Patterson held that record from then until Mike Tyson got it. Moore, who was 42 years old at the time, Archie was a champion to become the oldest world heavyweight champion in history. Right after the fight, held in Chicago, Patterson flew to New York to see his newborn daughter. Yeah. His daughter was born the same day he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Ain't that nice? Floyd Patterson. Hope everybody enjoying the show. I'm enjoying bringing it to you. It's the folks up in here. I appreciate everybody stopping by. This is Cass Sports, the box story. Okay, let's go to 1957. Okay, and I got a profile of 10 former fighters after this that fought during the decade of the 50s. 10 of the top guys. It's not a best 10, but just 10 of the top fighters that competed in the 50s. That'll be the last thing I do. 1957, May 1st. Okay, May 1st, 1957. Come on, 57. Getting close to when I was born. Yeah, I'm old. Okay, May 1st, 1957. There's that bad man again. Sugar Ray Robinson wins the world middleweight title for a record 4th time, and he wasn't finished. Record 4th time, knocking out Gene Fullmer in the 5th round with a punch that became known as the perfect punch. Okay, remember that? The perfect punch. On June 24th, 1957, Hogan Bassey, is Hogan on the right, becomes Nigeria's first world boxing champion in history, winning the vacant world featherweight title with a 10th round knockout of Sharif Hamia in Paris. Now you see how international boxing is becoming. That's like 5 different nationalities have won their first. Have won. 5 different countries have got their first world champion, all in the 50s. Yep, 5 of them. We're up to 1958. We're almost to our profiles. Okay, 1958, March 25th, 1958. Okay, Cass Sports, the box story. Sugar Ray Robinson breaks his own record, becoming world middleweight champion for the 5th time. Obviously, that's not Sugar Ray. By defeating, that's Carmen Basilio. No, that's Carlos Ortiz. He's next. Sugar Ray broke his own record. It was 4. He becomes middleweight champion for the 5th time, March 25th, 1958. He becomes Basilio with a 15-round split decision. Close fight. And then on December 10th, 1958, Carmen Basilio did something, because that's him on the screen. Not yet. Whatever he did, he hasn't did it yet. I don't know what happened. But anyway, December 10th, 1958, Archie Moore recovered from 3 falls in round 1. He went down 3 times in the first round. And another one in round 5, 4 times. Came back to win the fight. Knocked out Yvonne Jarrell in 11 rounds to retain his world light heavyweight title in what is considered by many to be one of boxing's greatest fights. That was in Montreal. He had Archie down 3 times in the first round, 1 more in the 5th, and Archie still won. 1959. Okay, March 12th. Here we go. This is Carlos. That's Carlos on the screen. This is why he was up there. I missed the other 2 slides. Sorry about that. But March 12th, in the first world junior welterweight title fight. Okay, so now we're starting to get some tweeners, because all this time we just had the 8 main divisions. We didn't have no juniors or supers. So this March 12th, 1959 is the first junior welterweight fight, 140. Contested. Carlos Ortiz becomes Puerto Rico's 2nd world champion, knocking out Kenny Lane in 2 rounds to win the vacant world title at the Garden. The Garden been having them big fights for a while, man. And finally, before we get to the profiles, on August 28th, 1959, a few months before the historic event, on October 14th, also at McQueen's birthday. And what happened on a historic day in October 14th, 1959? The Boxtorian was born. But on August 28th, 1959, a few months before the Boxtorian came into the world, Gene Fullmer wins the National Boxing Association World Middleweight title. The division had been vacated by Sugar Ray Robinson's retirement with a 14th round knockout over Carmen Basilio at San Francisco. And remember, Carmen had lost it to Sugar Ray a few years before. Carmen was trying to get it back after Sugar Ray vacated it, but he couldn't get past Gene Foreman. And I got a picture of Gene Foreman. Come on, thing, go down. I did the same thing I did yesterday. You know why I wouldn't go down any? Because it's already at the bottom. Okay, now we are going to look at 10 fighters that performed in the decade of the 10 of the top guys that performed in the 50s. Okay. I had 16 people in here. How come I only got 15 likes? But that's all good. You know, if you don't like it, hit the down one. You know, the dislike. But hit something. It would be appreciated. Okay, all that means something. Excuse me for 1 minute. Something's going on. Don't leave. I'll be back in like 2 seconds. I'm back. Sorry about that. Nobody left. Okay, we're gonna look at some of the top fighters. Now, like I always say, this is not a best of thing. It's just some of the top guys that performed in the 50s. Okay, let me get that going for you. Okay, everybody okay? We got Richardson Hitchens this weekend. Y'all better get with that JDT, man. We got some fire stuff going on over here. Okay. Here we go. Now this is just 10 top fighters that performed during the decade of the 50s. Okay. First one. Oh, excuse me. That's not right. Bear with me. Please bear with me. Come on, Cass, get it together. We got people waiting on you. 50s, not 40s. That was yesterday. I'm looking at yesterday's. There we go. Notes and everything. Okay, here we go. 10 top guys that performed in the 50s. The first one is Gene Foreman. That's Gene. Come on. I think that's Gene. Look like it's Sugar Ray fight. Okay. I believe. But anyway, Gene Foreman is first. We had time to drop the link and chop it up with a few of my people today. Okay. Now, Gene Foreman was in his prime during the decade of the 50s, right? Second half. Came in the 50s as a young fighter. By the second half, he was in his prime. And Gene Foreman didn't duck anybody, right? And he fought a murderous row of opponents. Listen to this. Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, if you know anything about the 50s, listen to who Gene Foreman fought. Sugar Ray Robinson, Carmen Basilio, Gil Turner, Paul Pender, Rocky Castellani, Ralph Tiger Jones, Del Flanagan, and Spider Webb. That's a murderous row of fighters from that period. Gene Foreman fought all of them. He didn't duck anybody. This is just like a little brief profile about these guys. Next up is Carmen Basilio. There's Carmen Basilio. What's up, Carmen? Carmen Basilio. Now, he was great throughout the entire decade. Early, middle, late, Carmen was the man. Had the championship, lost it to Sugar Ray. He owned wins over Sugar Ray Robinson, and he beat the likes of Ike Williams, Billy Graham, Gil Turner, Tony DeMarco, Johnny Sexton, and Art Aragon. Now, remember, I just told you he finished the decade off losing to Gene Foreman, but that was a classic battle, right? That was going for the title that Sugar Ray had vacated, remember? Yeah, but Gene was a bad man. I mean, Carmen Basilio. He finished the decade off losing to Gene Foreman, the one we just talked about. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the show, that middleweight, welterweight in the 50s. That's all I can say. Next is Harold Johnson. What's up, Harold? Okay, Harold Johnson. Now, Harold Johnson, he's one of the most underrated fighters in boxing history, okay? He's also one of the greatest light heavyweights in boxing history, okay? Very underrated fighter. He beat Archie Moore, right? He also lost a couple to Moore. And he had wins over some ranked heavyweights like Bob Satterfield, Nino Valdez. And he also fought against Ezzard Charles. That's a great fight. But he lost that one. But it's a good fight to watch. Harold Johnson and Ezzard Charles. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, now we're gonna get Sandy Sadler. That wasn't long, was it? Okay. Harold Johnson, get off of my screen. There's Sandy Sadler. Harold messed me up. Sorry about that, though. Nobody left. I appreciate it. But next is Sandy Sadler. Okay. Most people ever had in hand, and they ain't want to mess up. Now remember, Sandy Sadler had those 4 fights with Willie Pep. 4 good ones too. And his last significant fight was a 13th round knockout of future junior lightweight champion Flash Alaude, great Filipino fighter. That was in 1956. Okay. Over half of the decade of the 50s, he was a force to be reckoned with. And he closed out his famous rivalry with Willie Pep by stopping Pep after the 7th round. And that takes some doing, stop Willie Pep, man. And Sandy Sadler won 3 out of those 4 fights. But Willie Pep was a great defensive fighter, but you fight somebody 4 times, man, you know, they're going to figure out how they're going to figure you out. So, yeah. I guess that all that defense, once they fought 4 times, didn't mean all that, you know. Floyd, Sweepy, great defensive fighters, but you fight somebody 4 times, come on, man. They're going to get to you. And in the last fight, Sadler stopped Willie Pep. Quite an accomplishment. Okay. Next up is Joe Brown. Joe Brown. Okay. Joe Brown. There we go. Joe Brown. Brown was the undisputed lightweight champion of the world in 1956 at 30 years old. And he made 11 successful title defenses of his title. Okay. In the 92, he fought Wallace Bud Smith for the title. He was 70-18 with 11 draws, with 29 victories inside the distance, 29 knockouts. Now, that kind of record, you would not think that's the record of an all-timer, you know. And at 30 years old, it seemed improbable that he would suddenly find a way to move up to the sport's highest level and do so by leaps and bounds, okay? He didn't have his best years until after his 30th birthday. Now, history has largely forgotten him, and it's a shame, because he should be remembered as one of the most accomplished champions in lightweight history. But that record is kind of misleading, you know, all the losses he had and everything. But somehow, when he got into his 30s, he was almost a little past his prime before he hit his stride. Joe Brown. Next is the great Kid Gavilan. Kid Gavilan. There he is. There's the kid. There's the kid. Okay. Kid Gavilan. He was a beast the first half of the 50s. And he's another one. He didn't duck anybody. Okay. Didn't turn down anything. This is some of the fighters he beat. Listen to this. You know about the 50s. Check it out. Tony Gennaro, Johnny Bratton, Billy Graham, Bobby Dykes, Gil Turner, Chuck Davey, Ralph Tiger Jones, Carmen Basilio, and Bobo Olson. Okay? Now, the last half of the decade was the older version of Kid Gavilan, right? And he suffered defeats to fighters that he would have normally had no problem with, okay, in his prime. But make no mistake about it, Kid Gavilan is one of the greatest boxers to ever live. You know, don't get it twisted. Kind of fought past when he should have been in the ring. You know how it happens. You know, stayed around too long. Kind of tainted his legacy a little, you know. But it is what it is. Still one of the all-time greats. Pascual Perez is next, winding down. Pascual Perez, the great Pascual Perez, that is, from Argentina. Remember, he was Argentina's first world champion, Pascual Perez. Okay? And in the decade of the 50s, get this, he had 56 fights in the 50s. That's in entire careers of two fighters nowadays, 56 fights. He had that in the 50s. He won 54 of them, lost one, had one draw. One of the greatest flyweight of all time. Okay? Held the flyweight title for 6 years and made 11 successful title defenses in the 50s. Despite starting as a pro at 26 years old. Okay? Called himself the Terrier. Olympic gold medalist in 1948 in Stockholm, Sweden, right? And he did not lose a fight in the 50s until 1959. He was 54-0 going into the last year of the decade. Now, as a flyweight, there's been questions about his level of opponent, okay? But he still was the best in the division for the entire decade, okay? Pascual Perez, Hall of Famer, too. International Boxing Hall of Famer. Okay. Talking 50s, gotta have the Rock in there, man. Ain't no way. They would come lock me up if I didn't put the Rock in there. There he is. There he is. And you know, that's the Rock on the profile, right? You see that right hand? That's Susie Q. You know a man is bad when they name his right hand. That's a bad man. Rocky Marciano. Let's talk about it. Now, a lot of people say Rocky was overrated, right? And that's about as far away from the truth as you can get. Now, the heavyweight division was not loaded at that time. But how many times in history was the heavyweight division loaded? You know, other than around the 70s, right? Rocky owned 2 wins over Roland LaStarza. The first one with Roland LaStarza was close and controversial, and that's the closest he came to losing. That first fight with Roland LaStarza, yeah, closest he ever came to losing. Okay. Now the second fight, he dominated LaStarza. You know, he didn't leave it up to the judges. He stopped him in the 11th round. He beat Joe Louis. Now, it wasn't the Joe Louis. You saw the picture. It wasn't the Joe Louis, but it wasn't Rocky's fault. Joe Louis was still in there. He signed the contract. Rocky did what he's supposed to do. He knocked him out. Okay. So you can't say it wasn't the Joe Louis. Joe Louis was in the ring. And Rocky did what he's supposed to do. He didn't beat Rocky, did he? Okay. He beat Joe Louis. And Joe Louis was favored to beat Rocky. And guess what? He was the #1 contender at the time, okay? So you can't say it was an old Joe Louis. He was the #1 contender. He was favored to win. Rocky came out the victor. You saw Susie Q going upside Joe Louis's head, okay? And guess what else? Joe Louis was on an 8-fight winning streak when he fought Rocky too. Okay, so it was no old Joe. It wasn't the Joe Louis of the 40s, but it was still Joe Louis. He had just beat 8 people straight, and he was the #1 contender. And Rocky beat him. He also beat Jersey Joe Walcott. And some people would say, well, he was overrated. It was an old Jersey Joe Walcott. But guess what? That old Jersey Joe Walcott was the champion of the heavyweight division at the time. Couldn't nobody else beat him. So you can't say this man was overrated. Okay? Nobody. Jersey Joe Walcott was the champion. You can't use that old excuse. He was the champion. Nobody else had beat him, but Rocky beat him to become champion. Okay? He got 2 wins over Ezzard Charles. Ezzard Charles is one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in boxing history. Okay? Rocky also had wins over Lisa Vold, Rex Lane, and Harry Matthews. His last fight was a 9th round stoppage over Archie Moore. Once again, people say that Moore was old. But the truth be told, Moore would go on as a top-level fighter for another 5 years after he lost to Rocky. Guess what his record was? Moore fought 30 more times after he lost to Rocky. Only lost once. 28 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. So you cannot say it was an old Archie Moore. After Rocky beat him, he fought 30 more times and only one other person beat him, okay? So stop with the Rocky overrated and all that fought old guy stuff. It's not true. One of the baddest heavyweights ever. The Rock, owner of Suzy Q, that right hand, okay? And last, just like he was the last in the 40s on my profile, he's the last in the 50s. You know who it is. Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray. Yeah. Sugar Ray Robinson. Put this picture up there again. Now this picture looks like that fight where they said he was overheated. Remember, they had to stop the fight. Only time he ever been stopped. 140-degree heat. The ref had to change referees because the referee overheated. This might be that fight because it sure looks like he's overheated or something. Look like he's bothered by something. But anyway, Sugar Ray Robinson. Now his prime ended in the early 1950s. Okay. But he was a great fighter throughout the 50s. But his best was in the 1940s. Okay. But in the 50s, he had wins over Charlie Fusari, Bobo Olson. 1951 was the last fight with Jake LaMotta. That was the 13th round stoppage, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, remember? That was that one. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Aunt. Rocky was also a guy who was believed to be unskilled, even by the accounts of his own trainer. Did all right for himself, though, right, Aunt? Old school says Rocky was literally Rock'em brawler, yeah. But nobody never beat him, though. Yeah, 49-0. No, old school. How did you fight guys past the prime, old school? When he fought Jersey Joe Walcott was the champion, man. He was the champion. Joe Louis was coming off an 8-fight winning streak. Joe Louis was the #1 contender. How's that past your prime? Archie Moore fought 30 more fights after Rocky beat him. He only lost once. Come on, man. How's that past your prime? How's the heavyweight world champion past? How can you call him past your prime? He's the champion. Rocky took the championship from him. Come on, man. That's what I was just talking about, this nonsense people be talking. You gonna call a heavyweight? So Tyson Fury passed his prime? Usyk passed his prime? The heavyweight champion. That's who Rocky beat, the heavyweight champion. Come on now. Don't do that. Don't get me started on him. You know, the man was 49-0. He beat Jersey Joe when he was the champion. He beat Joe Louis when he was the #1 contender on an 8-fight winning streak. He beat Archie Moore, who fought 30 more times and only lost once. That's not past your prime. Okay? Well, they might have been past their prime, but wasn't nobody else beating them. That's for sure. Yeah. They might have been past the prime, but wasn't nobody else beating them. Jersey Joe was world champion. Joe Louis had an 8-fight winning streak. Archie Moore fought 30 more times and only lost once. So nobody was beating them past the prime fighters but Rocky. Okay. Sugar, let's finish up with Sugar Ray. Old school got me going there. Okay, where was I? Yeah, Sugar Ray. He beat Jake in the Valentine's Day Massacre. He had Hall of Fame careers in the 40s and 50s, as far as I'm concerned. Beat Bobo Gip Olson in 1952 and Rocky Graziano. Before he lost to Joey Maxim. Okay. After Maxim lost, Robinson didn't fight again until 1955. 1955, he lost to Ralph Tiger Jones. Then he beat Bobo Olson again. Also defeated Rocky Graziano again. Okay. Split 1-1 with Gene Fullmer. He also split 1-1 with Carmen Basilio around that time. But that's a great career, Sugar Ray Robinson, 40s and 50s. Okay, that's him on the screen. And that's it. But all I'm saying, old school, is no one else was beating them guys. Wasn't nobody else beating him. Jersey Joe was up in age, but he was a heavyweight champion of the world, man. You got to get a man credit. If he was so past his prime, wouldn't somebody else have knocked him off by then? Nobody could do it. He was the champion, right? You got to give credit where credit is due. That's all I'm saying. They was past their prime, but nobody else was beating them. Nobody. Okay. Remember, Joe Louis was on an 8-fight winning streak. He was the #1 contender. If he was past his prime, wouldn't somebody have knocked him off and had that #1 contender spot? Yes. But nobody could do it but The Rock. Right? That's all. But I hope everybody enjoyed the show. But it's still early in the JBT day now. We still got Just Do Boxing at 4. We got J Hardcore coming back at 8. And we got the closer coming on at 9, the Rise Podcast. So it's still early. Got a lot of great activities still to come today. Okay? And we get ready to put another Cash Sports in the history books in about 10 or 15 minutes. But tomorrow will be we're going to take a break from the decades tomorrow, and we're going to do the profile on Ricardo Lopez, bad man. You're here. I done told you enough about him. I almost told you the whole profile. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Then next week, we will finish up the decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Got a great profile next week. I'll tell you about that after the one tomorrow. Okay? But I appreciate everybody rocking with me, man. And I'm getting the eyes on me. So when we get in that meeting, sir, don't nobody say nothing about say anything, because I got most people I ever had in here today. I'm growing. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But I still appreciate the ideas. But I think Cash Sports has got a pretty good program going on. I don't really need to change too much. Growing wasn't built in a day. Okay? But speaking of meetings, we have another meeting Saturday at 1 o'clock. All are welcome. And we still got some positions to be filled. So please, get in touch with J Hardcore Saturday before 1 and get the link and come on by the meeting. Because don't come by when we halfway down the tracks. I'm just going to wave to you then. It's going to be too late. You better get on board now. Okay? We done left the station, but you can still run down the tracks and catch up. So, don't let us get too far away. You're just going to be looking at our dust because we are moving. That JBT is a thing. It's a great thing. So get on board now while the getting is good. And I appreciate everybody for rocking with me again. on my young growing channel. Just Do Boxing coming up in about 10 minutes. I'm going over there to watch him build. Fire Boxing Talk, keep everything balanced, even keeled. Had a good one yesterday. And then on Wednesdays we got a fashion show in the JBT too. Remo. Hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. Hashtag JBT. We got Ant McQueen, Casual Corner. You haven't watched the fight until you watch one after a Casual Corner. Oh yeah, Ant. Yeah, we got any combination of these three. Come on, Cursor. Any combination of these three. I'm gonna put it in the chat. And we got these guys did the main thing in the 40s. We got a guy named Bojack, not Bomac, Bojack. They all fought each other several times. Okay, these three guys. This week might be some good fights you might want to look up and break down. I won't miss it this time. Bojack, Bob Montgomery. Bob Montgomery and Bojack fought 4 times. Bob Montgomery fought Ike Williams like twice, and Bojack fought Ike Williams a couple times. So any combination of these three guys would probably be good to break down. Oh, come on, Cass. These guys did the thing mainly they fought in other decades, but the main part of their careers was in the 40s. I talked about them yesterday. Those three guys right there, and if you got time, look them up, and I'll be in the breakdown for them. Yes, and Bojack, any combination of those three fighting each other. Bojack, Bob Montgomery, and Ike Williams. All good fights. Yeah, from the 40s. Yeah. And yes, I know the last time I asked you to break a fight now was Ricardo Lopez and Rosendo Alvarez, and I didn't even show up. Yeah. But yeah, tell them that's a good place to go to watch fights get broken down and learn about the all kinds of different aspects of the sport, footwork, punches, clinching, everything over there in Casual's Corner, man. And you learn why guys do those things. It's an art to clinching. They're not just out there holding on to each other. It's an art to it, and a reason that they do it. Yeah. But I'm getting ready to put this one in the history books in a minute. Another good. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I enjoyed bringing it to you. And don't forget, tomorrow is the profile. Ricardo Lopez, bad man, ruled the 90s at 105. And I always said that he was champion for the entire decade, but he was, except for a few months. So Joe Louis is the only fighter to ever be champion for an entire decade. But Ricardo vacated 105 in late 98 and moved up in 99 to 108 and became champion there. So he was champion for the entire decade, except for a few months. But he did rule it at 105, yeah. Ricardo Lopez, that's tomorrow. Don't miss it. Got a good one for you. Yeah. And we got Richards and Hitchens Saturday, remember? I guess they had the press conference yet? Should be today, right? Yeah. But okay. Who we having here today? We had Just Do Boxing, the voice of the streets, coming up in a couple minutes. We had Old School in here. Ant McQueen from Casual's Corner. J Hardcore, hashtag JBT from the Hangout. Thomas Hill, hashtag JBT, the mayor of YouTube Boxing. Remo, hashtag Let's Talk Fashion, hashtag JBT from the Fire episode, hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. Al Booger was in here. The Mighty Rise Podcast, the closer. We'll shut it down tonight like they always do. Turn out the lights and close the door. But before then, you might catch the Face of Boxing's coaches in there. Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis might both be in there putting down fire boxing talk, man. And you ain't gonna find that nowhere but the JBT. Okay, that's all. They might do an interview somewhere else, but you ain't gonna find them almost every night on any other channel, but in the JBT, man. So if you don't know about that JBT, you will know about it. Salute to the Rise Podcast. Mike Masick was in the building. Chester James, hashtag JBT. And the executive vice president of Cassport, Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. The brains behind the Cassport organization. It definitely ain't me. I appreciate everybody, man. I'm getting ready for the voice of the streets coming up in about 5 minutes. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock with another Cassport, the Box Historian. I appreciate everybody for rocking with me. But you ain't finished with me yet. I'll see you at Just Do the Hangout or Rise Podcast. You can't get rid of me that easy. Okay? Everybody have a great day. Cassport, y'all.